All right. Mr. Tillman is here. Great. We'd like to call this board meeting to order. This meeting is called to order, and I would like to ask Ms. Chobe if she would do our Pledge of Allegiance.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we'll have the adoption of the agenda.
Second.
All right. There was a second. It was moved. All right. All in favor? Are there any questions? Dr. Marsden, do we have anything that we need to change?
No, we'll pull an item at consent, but nothing right now.
All right. Thank you. Tonight we have our inspirational message, and that's going to be from Dr. Barbara Flores.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. I've been a school board member since 2008, and even all of us here are professionals. The one thing we have been children. We've been parts of families. We have our own children. And I would like to read, not the whole 12 pages, but parts of it, on immigrants' rights, our human rights. And it's from the ACLU. And the reason I want to read this is because, to me, family and children are the most precious gifts that we have. And I think we have to be reminded that no human being is illegal. That, equality and dignity before the law is what we all are governed by in this country. We have fought for rights to liberty and security as a person. And we have fought for protection of family unity. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 16, number 3, the family is the natural and fundamental group, unit of society, is entitled to protection by the society and the state. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, no one shall be subjected to arbitrary or unlawful interference with his or her privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor unlawful attacks on his or her honor and reputation. The family is the natural and fundamental group unit of the society and is entitled to protection by the society and the state. The International Covenant of Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, the widest possible protection and assistance should be accorded to the family, which is the natural and fundamental group unit of society, particularly for this establishment, and while it is responsible for the care and education of dependent children. Our children are very precious and should not be separated from their parents. I am a mother, I am a grandmother, and I would go berserk if my child or grandchild were separated from me and not know where they are and what's happening to them. And I think that, we have the right to due process and fair deportation proceedings that are inherent in our laws, our international laws, and also by our Constitution. And I think it's really important that we, as people, stand up and speak up. And I want to end by quoting Martin Luther King. Never, never be afraid to do what's right, especially if the well-being of a person or animal is at stake. Society's punishments are small compared to the wounds we inflict on our soul when we look the other way. So I know that our board and our cabinet and our community supports families and children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. We appreciate that. We're now at item 1.5, which is our closed session. At this time, we're asking if there are any public comments. We're going to adjourn to closed session. So this evening, we're adjourning early. If there are any public comments, we'll take those at this
We
time.
have no public comments for closed session, Madam Vice President.
All right. Then we will be now dismissing to closed session, and we will be reporting out. All right. If everyone we can get back seated from our drill, our unexpected drill, shall I say. All right, board members, we're going to move forward. Let's see, where are we? So we're going to resume our open session. Again, we thank you all for your patience. We did switch up a little bit tonight, but thank you again. We appreciate it. And as we said, we would be reading out. This mic is so awkward. All right, I will be reading out. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the appointment of the following employees: Eva Haddad, Elementary School Principal, Roosevelt Elementary School, effective date, work year, and salary to be determined. LaTanya Greer, Middle School Principal, Curtis Middle School, effective date, work year, and salary to be determined. Welcome back to the district. We want to ask, are those individuals, if you are here, please stand so we can acknowledge you. I believe that's Tanya Greer. Dr. Greer, we're so grateful to have you back in the district. All right, great. That was exciting. That was exciting news. All right, so now we will move to 4.0, special presentations, recognition of all San Bernardino City Unified School District employees. Oh, I didn't take a vote, did I? I need to take a vote on those two. We were so excited, we moved forward.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Is there any questions or comments? All right. Approved as presented. All right. We're now at 4.0, and I'm going to ask Dr. Wyatt if you would read the recognition of all San Bernardino City Unified School District employees resolution.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Okay, whereas the San Bernardino City Unified School District recognizes the professional dedication of its nearly 10,000 certificated and classified employees, and whereas the district commends all employees for their unparalleled contribution to the lives of students as mentors and as examples of character who are indispensable to the mission of the district, and whereas it is timely and appropriate to recognize the extraordinary endeavors of employees like school librarians who are honored on April 17, 2019, interpreters and translators who work is acknowledged on September 30th, 2018, counselors who are honored the week of February 4th through 8th, 2019, school nurses whose day is May 8th, 2019, public safety dispatchers who are recognized the week of April 7th through 13th, 2019, cafeteria workers who are celebrated May 6th through 10th, 2019, clerical support personnel, including administrative assistants and secretaries, who are honored April 21st through 27th, 2019, and custodial staff whose hard work is celebrated on October 2nd, 2018. Therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Board of Education of the San Bernardino City Unified School District join our community in thanking all certificated and classified employees and honor them for accepting the charge of nurturing and educating our students. So moved.
Is there a second? All right, all in favor? Any questions? All right, the ayes have it. Motion carried. 5.0, public hearings. 5.1, the public hearing for the College Readiness Block Grant Plan is now open. Dr. Marsden?
No comments on this specific item.
All right, the public hearing is closed. Okay, we don't have it.
One moment, please. We'll locate that. For the public hearing, no, this is not
5.0?
public comments. This is
5.0.
on topic item 5.1. So if you wish to speak to the board on topic item 5.1, then we just need the blue slip turned into our board secretary.
Is she speaking on the?
So ma'am, did you want to speak on item 5.1 on public comments? Okay, fantastic. We'll get there.
Public,
just a little bit. Thank you.
okay, thank you. All right, so we have closed out. All right. Moving to 6. No, no vote. All right, 6.0, student achievement. The later start times for secondary school update. Dr.
Thank
Martin?
you, Madam Vice President. So yes, this is a long-awaited presentation board on the later school start times for secondary schools. This will be an update tonight by several members who've been actively engaged in this discussion. And board, just as a reminder, if you could, we'll wait until the entire presentation before asking questions. They'll be ready for your questions right at the end. Dr. Volkemer will start us off. Thank you, Dr. Volkemer, for your leadership in this discussion with our community and with our school district.
Thank you, Dr. Marsden. Good evening, board. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. And we have a lot to share with you, so we're going to move through pretty quickly. But our objectives are simple. We want to provide an update in terms of what we've been up to the last 9 months or so. And then we want to get some direction from the board on next steps for our work in exploring the possibility of changing start times at our schools. I have a crackerjack team to assist me with the presentation this evening. None of them are strangers to you, I don't think. They have all been very, very faithful members of the work group that we assembled to do this work, which I'll talk about in just a minute. But I want to introduce them. We will be doing some presentation gymnastics to get them all up, so they'll be shuffling around and coming to the podium individually and moving back and forth. The team this evening is Dr. Michael Cholby, who is a parent of a proud graduate of Cajon High School, who I'll introduce in just a moment, also a professor at Cal Poly Pomona, excuse me. Nikki Detman, no stranger to us, a very active parent, San Bernardino City Unified School District. Amanda Manzano, also a parent of students in our school district. Alexandra, or Alex Chapin, who is a teacher and SBTA representative serving on our work group. And then last but not least, we brought Isabel Cholby out of retirement as a student board member to come back and share with you a little bit about the work we've been up to. So looking forward to hearing from each one of those. We're moving on to slide two. And just to bring you back up to speed, we've been working on this throughout the school year, but you have gave us some direction, and now we're coming back to you. Just to give you a quick recap, the board expressed some interest in this topic of the possibility of changing start times for secondary students some time ago, actually, and then it kind of got its a little bit of a catalyst when we went to a conference in Washington, D.C. Dr. Cholby and Isabel went, as well as Dr. Hill, Miss Rogers, and myself, and that was an adolescent and sleep health conference. We came back and presented to the board, and the board gave us direction to explore this issue. They said, we want you to go out and see, what's happening in relation to this, what other districts are doing, what the research says, and how our community might feel about it. And so that's what we've been up to the last 9 months. Moving on to slide 3. To help us with this work, we assembled a really great team of people. And by the way, you're going to be getting a notebook, but one of the first things that you learn in teacher school is that you never give the handout out while you want them to pay attention to what you're saying. So you're going to hear a reference that this will be in your notebook, this will be in your notebook. We'll give those out to you at the end of the presentation, but it will fill in a lot of the blanks that we'll talk about. But we had a great team, and the roster for that of the entire team is listed as one of the tabs in the notebook you'll receive. But I can say it was an absolute pleasure to work with this group. They were willing to learn. They were willing to set aside, everybody has an opinion about this. They were willing to set aside, at least temporarily, their own agendas, their own feelings about it, to really take a good look at what this issue has to offer, and to try to work toward what's best for students. And so, if there are any other members, I introduced the people that will be the other 5 people that will be presenting, but any other members of the team, they were invited to come this evening, and I know there are a few. Stand up if you would. If you could, if you were on the team. I know there's a couple of directors in the back, Dennis and Lisa and Carmel. Thank you so much for being here. It is summer, so some people are off still on vacation. So again, we have a lot to share, and we're going to move through it as quickly as possible. And our first presenter will be Alex. We're moving on to slide 4, by the way.
So in order to guide our work group collectively began a KWL chart on the first day. This well-known teaching strategy lent itself really well to the work that we were trying to do. Briefly, within a KWL chart, the K stands for what we already know, the W stands for what we would like to learn, and then of course, the L stands for what we have learned throughout this process. We have revisited this KWL chart throughout the year, and a copy will be in your binders for you to review, as I'm sure you're going to read every page. As you know, the work group was structured to include representatives from all sorts of stakeholders. As a group, we asked for various district staff to present pros and cons from their perspective. For example, the view from transportation is going to be very different than the view from nutrition services. Those who presented included our athletics department, nutrition services, and transportation. Additionally, we wanted to learn from those whom already have attempted changes to their start times in their districts. Across the U.S., there are districts that have either jumped in all the way or have slowly begun to wade into this pool. We wanted to learn from their process as well as learn about any tensions that they came across. The key takeaway for me was that from this research is to be completely transparent and to have regular communication with stakeholders throughout this process.
Great. Thank you, Alex. Now Dr. Cholby is going to share a little bit about the message that we work to send in relation to the research, both medical and educational.
Next slide. Yeah. All right. So one of the objectives that our working group had was to educate the members of the community about the medical and educational research about adolescent sleep and about perhaps the educational benefits of delaying start times for secondary school students. And one of the motivations for this was taken from an element of the district's mission statement, which holds that the district will be the leading expert in human learning, which we took to mean that we should consider, or at least discuss seriously, any changes to the school schedules that might be suggested by what experts in the field know about student learning and student achievement and student health. And some of these things are, I think, well known to the board, but since they may not be well known to some members of the public, there are many prominent organizations, the American Medical Association, the American Association of Pediatrics, the National PTA, that have stated that there is a challenge that adolescents face with respect to sleep, and that one of the things that schools might do to address this is to have later start times. To start with something that I think we all know, people's sleep patterns change across their lifetimes. Infants don't sleep the way kindergartners do. They don't sleep the way young adults do, the way the elderly do. And adolescents in particular have some distinctive sleep characteristics. They need about 9 hours per night in order to function optimally. That's what the scientific research tells us. But what that same research tells us that many of them don't get that 9 hours a night. In fact, only about 1/3 of them do. And in some studies, the adolescents are getting on average about 7 hours per night. That raises the obvious question, well, if adolescents aren't getting the sleep they need, why couldn't they, say, go to sleep earlier in the evening? The trouble is that adolescents are kind of biologically hardwired to be sleepy later in the day. This seems to stem from at least 2 factors. One, as the slide mentions here, are circadian rhythms. These are our biological clocks that are attuned to exposure to light. And adolescents undergo sleep phase delay. That is to say that they have a slightly longer circadian rhythm, and as a result of this, they become sleepy later in the day. On top of this, another factor is the hormone melatonin, which is what is responsible for making us sleepy. Adults, like me, our melatonin levels begin to increase around 9 o'clock in the evening. Adolescents, those increases don't take place until about 11 o'clock. So they feel alert at a later point in the evening and have difficulty falling asleep earlier in the day. A slightly different way to see things is to talk about the notion of peak sleep, right? When people sleep most intensively, most restfully. For adults, that happens between 1 and 5 a.m., whereas for adolescents, that happens between 3 and 7 a.m. So if you're waking an adolescent to go to school at 6 o'clock, this is waking them in the midst of peak sleep. And the point here is that, you know, most adolescents probably would struggle to fall asleep earlier in the day. This is a biological fact about them. They're night owls, not so much by choice, but due to physiology. And I think when we start considering this issue, right, many districts, again, have changed their start times for adolescents, put those start times later in the mornings. And this seems to have a number of benefits in the districts that have considered it. It seems, for example, to have increased attendance in most of these districts. It's a positive contributor to student safety. That is to say, students are less likely, for example, to get in auto accidents, or they are better able to regulate their emotions, so they're not as likely to have conflicts with other students or with their teachers. This improves behavior and mood and seems to contribute positively to academic achievement. One finding that's particularly interesting with respect to academic achievement is that I think we can all appreciate that being tired makes it difficult to be alert, it makes it difficult to pay attention to learning, but also increasingly sleep researchers are learning that sleep is important for consolidating learning, right? That is to say, when you learn something and you get a good night's sleep, that enriches the neural networks responsible for learning, and so it has a role to play after the event of learning has taken place. So those are some of the benefits that have been found in this research. I think one of the most important piece of information that we found is that all of the districts that have adjusted their secondary start times backward, none have reversed that decision. And in fact, I recently found some surveys in those districts suggesting very strong community support, very strong parent and teacher support once these later start times were implemented. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cholby. One of the things that you heard earlier from Alex's board is that one of the key things in moving this forward in a community is to be very transparent and to have excellent communication. And so what we worked on was an information exercise, what we called an information exercise plan, designed to inform and involve people as much as we possibly could. And so Nikki is going to lead the way in terms of sharing with you some of the things we did to have communication and transparency.
Well, it was important for us to provide the community, and when we say the community, we don't just mean the parents. We mean teachers, employees, the community at large, to inform them as much as possible about the scientific research and data behind later start times. Equally important to us was the ability to gain feedback from those stakeholders. So some of the things that we did were to have utilize our district website. We actually posted information on there, not just informational as to what time you should come to the town hall meeting, but just about some of the scientific research behind it. We also utilized some of our social media apps that the district has been using lately. We sent letters home to our families through the students and also to our district employees. We also created a frequently asked questions, also from not only what we heard from people in the community in the school district, but just in general, based on this research, some of the common questions that would be asked in regard to later school start times. So when we put together this exercise plan, again, we really wanted to be able to do two things: to be able to be a source of information, but also to be a listening body, and make sure that it's a dialogue and not a one-way direction with our community. So we had 6 town hall meetings that were held at 6 of our high schools. And we did that because we wanted to meet people where they're at. We didn't necessarily want to say, come down to the PDC or you must come to Indian Springs. We really wanted to meet people where they were at because it was critical for us to get the information to them and from them. We offered sessions in both the morning and the afternoon, again, keeping into account different work schedules for parents. And so, in fact, one of our town hall meetings, the one that was held at San Marino High School, got coverage from Channel 4. They came out and it was on the news, and it was great because the district was really applauded for putting this issue out and being in the forefront of it, and really recognizing that we can't make any serious changes of something like this without getting our community feedback. So all of the questions and comments from the town hall meeting will be in the infamous binder that you all will be getting. And that's every comment, every question, every comment, everything will be in there. Again, not only do we want to be transparent with our community, but we want to be very transparent with you as the board and cabinet so that you know every bit of information that was given back to us. Additionally, we reached out to the Superintendent's Student Advisory Council. It's important, the kids are part of this as well. We can't just make these decisions for the kids. We need to hear from them. And so we got that information. Again, that will also be in the notebook. And also how to best communicate with students on this topic, how we phrase things for the adults or for community members. We had to have the message meet the needs of the certain demographics that we worked with. So again, all of this came together so that we can create a survey which went out to the parents. I remember filling out my little Scantron. I don't know if any other parents remember doing that, to be able to take that information back. So the cumulative data will also be in that binder so you can see where people fell in terms of the survey. You will see survey results from elementary parents and secondary parents. You will also see survey results from staff members from elementary and secondary level. So you'll see a few different charts in there, and on each page it will identify where this data is coming from.
Great. I'm actually going to take the next slide board. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of ways you could slice and dice how to change start times. We currently start elementary at 8:50 in the morning. We start secondary at about 7:30. It ranges a little bit between middle school and high school. So there are obviously numerous options and possibilities between that. What we tried to do was maintain flexibility for the board and give people what we called a straw design. If we were to do this, how would that work? If we were to do this, how would that work? So we kind of looked at two ends of the spectrum. We looked at the possibility of all students starting together at the same time. So if we moved all of our secondary schools to 8:50, like we have at elementary right now, what would that look like? What impact would that have on the district? That particular option, and again, it's one of what could be many, just in terms of a straw design, would cost the district about $10 million. Most of that being transportation, because we would have to double our fleet. Right now, we double up on buses. The buses come, they pick up secondary students, drop them off, and then as soon as they're done dropping off, they go and pick up elementary students. So we kind of get a double whammy with our buses. We would not be able to do that if everybody were starting at the same time, which would essentially double our fleet of buses. So that's where most of the cost comes from. There could be some other costs in relation to athletic facilities needing lights where practices would have to go a little bit later into the afternoon. And there are probably some other costs we haven't determined to this point, but that's primarily the cost. $10 million is a lot of money, obviously. It's not, when you look at our entire budget of unrestricted general fund, it's about 2%. So relatively speaking, it's not a great deal of money, but it is a sizable amount of money when you ask, is this the best investment of those dollars? The other option we looked at as a straw design was to switch elementary and secondary. The research is very clear. You heard Dr. Cholby talk about the compelling medical research about circadian rhythm and adolescent sleep patterns. Where there's not nearly as much research is on elementary students. What we rely on more for talking about elementary students is our own personal experience. Most of us, and not all of us, don't mean to overgeneralize, but typically younger kids are up earlier in the morning, ready to go, watching TV before school starts, going out to play, et cetera, et cetera. And so we took that into account, not from a research standpoint, but just as another option that we could explore in terms of switching elementary and secondary. That would be primarily cost neutral. There might be some small costs, but in terms of transportation in particular, there wouldn't be any sizable cost. We know from our work that may have caused some confusion, and that's just a realization we had as we tried to send a consistent message to people and give them opportunities to do research. We know that people may have been confused by, well, are we going to just switch secondary, or are we going to switch? Are we just going to move secondary, or are we going to move switch elementary and our secondary schools. So we're factoring that into our consideration of the data as we look at things anecdotally. So what we're going to do now is actually move into the data. What we did was, as Nikki mentioned, we did give every family, every team member or employee of the group, and all students grades 5 through 12, the opportunity to give initial feedback. And we're keeping the data at a very, very high level, a very balcony type level for you. We can dig into it if the board wants and come back. We're giving you all the data and every comment from every staff member, every student, and every family member in your notebook that you will get. But we're trying to keep it at just a basic level so you can get a general feel for how the various stakeholders of our community are feeling about this issue. And this was all taken in late May and June. So Amanda's going to start with the survey data from our families, and then Isabel's going to follow with survey data from our students, and Alex will follow with survey data from our staff.
Madam President, I'd like a clarification.
We were going to hold the questions.
No, I just
until-
want to know, by families, does he mean parents?
We sent them home with students, so who's ever at home. So
Okay.
so if I'm a seventh grader at Shannon Hills Middle School, I took a survey home to whoever is at home. That could be
The guardian
parents, could be
or
guardian,
foster?
could
Okay,
be
okay,
yeah. That's
all
why
right.
we use the term families
Family,
instead of
okay,
parents.
just clear, it's an adult.
Correct.
Okay.
And if there's any more, I'm writing over here. I'll put you in the order. That way I catch you.
Hi. So surveys went out to our families and guardians. We used a process that's been successful for us in the past, mirroring our annual customer service survey. We chose a paper pencil survey, and we bribed our students to have their parents and guardians fill them out. As you can see on slide number 10, we asked families their thoughts on changing secondary school start times and separately elementary start times. We received over 7,500 surveys, which is a very representative response, approximately 25%. We combined the results for agree, strongly agree, and disagree, strongly disagree. As you can see, the data shows that approximately 75% of our respondents were either in support or neutral toward the issue. We recognize that not everyone who completed the survey had attended the town hall meeting or visited our website. All the data with every accompanying comment is provided for you in the notebook.
We also surveyed our students, which the graph of which you can see is on the next slide, slide 11. For this process was slightly different from parents. We all took a poll online, so we were either given the link for our phones or for computers in class for students in grades 5 to 12. And before we gave this survey out to students across the district, we asked students at the Student Advisory Council what they thought about this survey. And one of the main pieces of feedback that we got was that we were concerned about people's level of knowledge and information about the issue at hand. So what we did was create a lesson plan for teachers to use before they instructed their students to complete the survey. So I can't testify, obviously, to every classroom where this was used across the district, but you can see the lesson plan in the notebook that will be provided to you later. But basically, it was like a 5-minute discussion about the issue after viewing a short video about it, so that students weren't coming in totally blind about what they were actually being surveyed about. And we received a response rate of just over 70%, so that's pretty good. And you can see the data right in front of you or on slide 11. And in both groups of students on there, which is secondary and elementary, you can see that over 50% either agreed, strongly agreed, or were neutral about the change. This is obviously valuable data, but we recognize and have some skepticisms about the student data that are similar to the ones that you heard about the families data and also from the other stakeholder groups, which is that we don't know how many of the students experienced the lesson plan or how much they learned about the issue, and we don't know if they understood the questions being asked of them, whether they were independent or dependent, and we don't know whether that translates to whether they would actually support the policy or not. So we have some qualifications about this data, but the fact that over half of students were either for or neutral on the concept of a change of start time, we think is positive.
Thank you. From a teacher perspective, our district really likes surveys. So it is not a stretch to think that our staff members are familiar with completing them. We invited participation from all of our team members, including our guest teachers, our full-time and part-time employees, our managers, and our non-managers. We received just over 2,500 survey responses, which is roughly 31% of our staff, and could be considered a statistically valid response rate. As you can see from the graph, there's a slightly higher percentage in favor of moving that secondary start time. Much like with our families and our students, however, we do recognize that all of our staff may have not reviewed the research or the website at the point of taking this survey.
So, Board, I do want to share that we did collect information, by the way, about the percentage of people that went to town hall meetings or participated in class activities. That information is in your binder. We tried to do some information gathering about our communication strategies and how effective they were, so that if we continue this work, which we are certainly hoping we get to, that we know that this worked to a certain degree. We may have to try some other strategies and develop some other strategies. What we wanted to spend a little bit of time on, and we're on slide 13, were the issues that seem to be most prevalent in the discussions. Some of them are very, very much anticipated. Not a surprise at all. The idea of childcare, we had parents sharing with us that if you change an elementary start time, right now my 5-year-old daughter gets on the bus at 7:40 in the morning to make it to school by 8:50. If you change start time, she'd have to be on the bus at 6:15 in the morning. That's a little bit early for an elementary school, a very young elementary school student. There were issues raised about extracurricular activities in relation to athletics, band, drama, our CAPS programs. Would we still have CAPS? How would we have to adjust our CAPS programs? Transportation, we've already talked about. Student employment, and probably the one that is most prevalent in some of the other data that we collected was information about employee schedules. I don't want my schedule to change. This does not fit with my, where I'm coming from at this time in my life. So not a lot of surprises there. We were quick to point out, particularly in our town hall meetings, that this board has been very responsive to those issues. We cited one very pertinent example, and that is we had parents that came to the board and said, I'm having trouble with my drop-off time. I have to drop my student off before school. There's no one there to supervise. I don't know what to do. I don't want to be late to work. I don't want to lose my job, but I'm not going to leave my student in an unsafe, unsupervised situation. This board took the action to provide an extra hour of rec aid time at every elementary school so that parents would have someplace safe and supervised to drop their student off. So we tried to share with the community that the board has been responsive to those types of issues as they come along. A couple issues that came up that we were not anticipating, but that our parents and community members, family members shared with us loudly and clearly. The first one was homework. We didn't look at that as a factor, and it's not necessarily a factor in late start time or early start time, but it is a factor in terms of sleep. If I have 7 or 8 hours of homework a night, then no matter what time you start school the next morning, I'm going to be up late doing homework. And we heard quite a few of the participants share with us that we need to take a look at our homework policy. And are we giving a healthy amount of homework that does what it's supposed to do, but isn't overly burdensome on our students? The second issue that came up repeatedly were cell phones. And while we were quick to share with those in the audience that we would probably not become the cell phone police in their homes, that we could do something. We offer many, many trainings for parents in a large number of areas. We might have a need to incorporate cell phone regulation at home as part of a strategy to help help parents work with their students in the best environment for homework and sleep as well. We had I had a discussion with one lady I remember, and she said, you know, I can't get the phone off. 2 o'clock in the morning, they're still on their phone. And I said, well, I'm guessing that perhaps you paid for that phone. And she said, yes. And I said, then it's your phone. And you can check it in at 8 o'clock and check it back out at 6 o'clock in the morning back to the student. And she said, I can do that? And I said, you can. So she left happy. She had a whole new strategy to work with her adolescent kids. So we share these as concerns. And again, as was mentioned, in your notebook, you have every question that was asked and every comment that was made. My staff was there. They were so faithful to get every one of those down so that you can have the information that the community has been sharing. But those primarily are the issues, so to speak. So now Nikki's going to wrap it up before we turn it over to your questions, which we know you have a few, on some final thoughts and possible next steps.
Okay, so obviously you've been presented with a lot of information. You'll be presented with a lot more information with your notebooks. So right now it's like, where do we go from here? You know, the fact of the matter is that this issue is not going to disappear. It's not going away. And in our discussions, we felt like no action is not an option for our district. Our district is innovators. We put our students first, and so we really feel like no action is not an option. Primarily because, again, the issue isn't going away. Senator Portantino, his SB 328, brought forward about later start times for secondary school. Now that bill did sort of die in committee, but he's going to bring it back. There was a lot of support for that bill legislatively. The major hangup in that was that a lot of people felt that a state government body should not be dictating what a local school district does. Kind of goes counter to some of the things that the state has been doing, specifically with LCAP and LCFF. But support for the idea itself is there, and we will see that come back legislatively. So we feel like we are really doing our best to be prepared should that happen. Do we want to be prepared for that if it happens legislatively, or do we want to play catch up if that mandate is brought down upon us? So we will continue to look at some of the legislative aspects of that. We already know what the benefits are medically for our secondary students in terms of performing well in school, what circadian rhythms are, student safety. Those are important issues. Again, if we're putting our students first, we need to think about what is the most beneficial for our students. The educational research is also convincing from those who have moved forward with later school start times. Actually, I was just reading the other day, there was a school district in Texas who saw an 11% increase in their graduation rate after they implemented later start times. Now, we know within the last 6 years how we have grown our graduation rate in San Bernardino, that we lead the county, the state, and the nation. Can you imagine if doing something just as, I say simple, as having a later start time, can you imagine how that would impact our students, how we would see higher graduation rates, better attendance rates, better going to college, you know, kids who are going to college, A through G completion. So again, we're looking at how does this benefit our students? Again, the issue continues to garner attention. San Diego Unified recently announced they're going to do a 3-year gradual phase-in of later start times for their school district. We truly believe that this is an issue that is critical for our students. Again, the district's mission statement talks about being the leading expert in human learning. That means sometimes you have to make decisions that won't be popular. You are never going to make a decision that's going to make 100% of the people happy. But again, when we look at the data, it clearly shows that this is beneficial for students in secondary. I do want to qualify a couple things. When this issue was first brought to the board, and the board asked us to explore this issue, the issue was looking at pushing back secondary start times. And somehow in that mix, the idea of an elementary swap came forward. We haven't found anything that shows there's a benefit of having elementary students start earlier. So what this group would like to do is really more so focus on the benefits of pushing back secondary. I think you'll get a better response, a more clear response from our parents in the community. versus, yes, we like it, we don't like it, or we're neutral. Personally, I was a little concerned about the number of neutral. This is something that you should feel one way or the other about. And I think when we brought in the idea of elementary, it kind of clouded things when we only have seen benefits for pushing back secondary start times. So what we would like to do as a group is to continue to educate our stakeholders. We recognize in some of our efforts to get the information out, sometimes we had a couple of technical glitches, whether it was the website or surveys. So we'd like to continue to educate our community. We have even discussed how do we implement this. We talked about maybe doing videos on the website. The district has done an amazing job in their communications and reaching out via social media, just explaining what this means and why it's important. We'd also like to look at doing an additional survey, but rather than asking the questions, do you support, are you neutral, or you strongly agree, strongly disagree, we'd like to implement a forced rank survey, which basically says you have 3 options and we'd like you to rank these 3 options. Is the status quo okay? Are you saying that we know the information, but we don't want to make a change? Do we want to do, again, the elementary and secondary swap, which, again, I think that has caused a lot of uncertainty for this proposal? And then lastly, do we want to move secondary only? And it's a forced rank. And you rank 1 through 3, which one you like the best, and then the second best, and then the one that you like the least. And I feel like we'll get a stronger feel of what our community, our teachers, and our students truly want, because then there's no ambiguity about going forward. And then as we continue to do that, we're going to look at possible options for implementation, whether it is a gradual implementation, as we are seeing with San Diego, where they're taking 3 years to implement it, or do we do a full implementation? So either way, it's going to take some time. Certainly this is not something that's going to happen within the next 2 weeks before this school year starts, but would likely be something that is 2 or 3 years out, so that we can begin to put those processes into place.
Board, that brings us to the end of our formal presentation. We're certainly available for any questions that you
Thank
might
you.
have. But before we do that, I do want to give a huge shout out to the team for their stalwart support and the time that they've devoted to this. So we give them a round of applause
Yes.
before they get
Great
peppered
job.
before they
Yes.
get peppered with questions.
Okay, I have 2 board members, Mr. Gallo, and then that will be followed by Mr. Tillman.
Yeah, I have just a simple question on the survey results. This says later start time. Does that mean the elementary numbers here are for a later start time in elementary? Is that what the
No.
survey results does?
No, that's just the title of the slide.
Okay, so what does
So
it mean?
they were asked-
Any change?
Yeah, people were
Plus,
asked.
minus, or whatever.
Yeah, people were asked a simple question: would you be in favor of changing school start times at the elementary level? Separately, would you be in favor of changing start times at the secondary level?
Okay, now,
Is that
okay,
simple?
let me probe that a little bit further. So this, you could have survey results in here that actually says, I want to start secondary earlier.
That would be reflected based on how we prepared it. That would be reflected in a disagree. So yes, they would disagree with.
Well,
I hear what you're
that's
saying.
why I'm
Yeah.
asking, that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm asking, is that,
I hear what you're saying.
you know, was the question, do you favor a change, regardless, plus, minus,
it
whatever?
was.
Or is it, do you favor a change for a later start time?
You'll
Those are
see the
two
survey in your
separate-
notebook, by the way. But yes, that was the question.
Which one? The first one? The later one?
Yes.
The later start time?
Yes.
So, but for elementary, it was a later start
Yeah.
time in elementary?
Each survey had a qualifier at the top explaining
Yeah.
what the
Well, I'm
straw
just
design
curious,
was.
on the elementary one, was it a later start time in elementary?
No, it would have been it would have been later. Or earlier. I'm sorry. Yes, earlier for
Really?
elementary.
Okay, because it's not clear from the
Yeah,
chart.
it would have
is
been
all
earlier.
I'm
Correct.
saying. Okay. So it's not the change. Yeah, it's not whether I want to change. It's
It is. Correct.
earlier. Yeah,
Correct.
to an earlier time.
Correct.
Okay.
That was
so
made clear.
The elementary is earlier start time. the secondary is later start time. Okay.
Mr. Tillman?
Thank you for clarifying that.
And I do want to mention that, and that is why we have talked about doing an additional survey where it's more of a forced rank. Because again, ultimately, the board asked us to look at later start times for secondary. The medical data indicates it's a benefit for secondary students. We've not seen necessarily that data for elementary. So I do understand what you mean in terms of the question. Are we asking the right question to the right group?
I just didn't know from this chart what you asked.
Good question.
In the
Yep.
book.
But just so we don't lose sight of the fact, I know it's been stated that the money doesn't matter, but the money is a big deal. You're talking about changing a cost of $10 million if you have to,
Do it at
if
the
you're
same
not
time.
able to use the same buses to do both as we do right now, you're talking about adding an additional transportation cost of $10 million. That's a huge cost to the district. Are you done? Mr.
Yeah, I am. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, so I guess the students are not part of the family?
Sorry?
Certainly they are.
The students are,
We were surveyed separately from our adult guardians.
Yeah, because the results are different.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the students don't agree with, I think it should have been parents and students, because it's obvious that it's different groups. And if you're talking to the students, the only people left in the house, in the family, I'm assuming, are the parents. So I think the one survey is saying parents, and the other one's saying students, right?
So
Because it's obvious that the parents are more for it than the students are,
right.
that's what
That-
that's what this
it
data would
would
suggest.
appear.
but it's
That's it.
parents. Because I want to make sure we realize the students are still part of the family.
We certainly do
Right.
recognize that. We also know that
Yeah.
students may feel differently
They
than
do.
their
They
family
do.
members do. We wanted to respect that.
But I mean, if you're talking to students, what other family members are there other than
Mom and dad.
parents? So I just think it should be labeled parents and students.
Danny, that's why I asked that question earlier.
And then, and I think there's a solution that will make everybody happy. I don't think we benefit anyone by telling them, you don't know what's best for you, and I'm gonna fix you, and I'm gonna make you start the time that's right for you. But then the parent doesn't know what they're gonna do in terms of getting to work, or the student has to lose his job, and the job has helped paying bills, and all of a sudden a family's on the edge to become homeless, and you're going to convince them that you're better off being homeless because
We're gonna
whatever the
survey
reason. So I
gonna
really
survey
think,
them.
but I do think there's a way that we can be successful. When we go to college, we get to pick our start time. I mean, it's easy. You just offer classes at different times. And when the students register, the ones that want to start early, they register for classes that start early. The ones that want to go to school later, they register for the late classes. And they don't have to take a first period or a second period class, whatever represents that time, framing the early time. And then that by choice, the students, the high school students dictate when they start. And I think there's nothing more important than getting buy-in. And that's buy-in that is natural and obvious just by offering the classes at different times. And we can do it in such a way where we say, if we offer the classes, but if there aren't enough students who apply for the early class or the late class, just like they do at the college, that class will be dropped, and you have to register for one of the earlier classes. And then it'll be just by that process, you'll know what the students and parents have decided on in terms of what's best for that student's education. And people are making a choice. So then you have total buy-in. And I really believe if we just did it for the high school level, we could do it as a pilot for 1 year, and we would realize what the difference in cost is, because you wouldn't have as much cost because some of the transportation would stay the same as it is right now. But it'd be interesting to see what happens and pay for it for 1 year just to see what it looks like.
And
Doc-
Mr. Tillman, to address your concern, and that's why we had these town hall meetings specifically. We certainly don't want to come here and say, well, the medical research says this, and we know what's best for you. That's certainly not what we wanted to do, because when we came together as a group, one of the first concerns that was raised is we don't want parents, teachers, the community, students to feel like this is a done deal. The district's already made their decision, and we're basically going to put on a dog and pony show and pretend like we want to know what you think. And that's not the case at all. We absolutely wanted to get the feedback. And if nothing else, the feedback that we've gotten has shown us we need to continue to reach out and give additional information. Again, not to convince anyone of anything, but to show the medical information and what it means. And I think if we continue to do that, be transparent, have this be a dialogue versus a one-way discussion, as Dr. Vogelmer mentioned, you know, the homework and the cell phone things never came up at all in any of our discussions. But what the survey has done is opened up some other avenues for us to improve our ways of communicating with parents, to improve the offerings that we have for parents in terms of, you know, parent training. In my house, I get the cell phone, but maybe in someone else's house, they might need some training to figure out how do you work with your child. And so this isn't us trying to act like we know better. I tell parents all the time, you're a PhD in your child. And I strongly believe that. And I would never come across as saying, I'm going to do or choose what's best for you. But these town halls, these surveys have really opened up to us and shown that we need to continue the process of getting the information out there. We need to continue the process of listening to our parents, our families, and the communities, and then look at it from a fiscal standpoint. You know, yes, everything costs money, nothing is free. I'm not minimizing these expenses, but we need to look at, is there an ultimate offsetting benefit for our district in terms of improved attendance? Will we make some of that money back up? So we're just saying we need to continue to look at these options and explore these options.
Well, and I guess it's to the board, but if we were ever going to do this, you would have to be deciding about right now that you're going to do it for the next fiscal year. If you go back out now and start doing additional surveys, then you're talking about not impacting 2019, 2020, but you're talking about 2020, 2021. I mean, if we're really going to, I'm not advocating one way or another, but I'm saying if you really want to do this, now will be the time to decide, hey, you know, let's proceed in doing either a pilot like the one I talked about or a pilot at certain schools, but now will be the time to do it based on the information that you have. If you go back out for more surveys, then you're not going to do it for next fiscal year. You're talking about, and Dr. Volkmer, you know this well because you used to be, and we have Dr. Wiseman, some of this stuff has to be negotiated and worked out with the associations. This is not something that can be done quickly. So if we're going to look at doing it, now's the time to make a decision.
Dr. Hill, and then Dr. Wyatt, and then Dr. Forrest.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the presentation and very excited about what you've done so far. I was just a little concerned when I saw the survey of the students, because I was at most of the town hall meetings, and we didn't have a lot of students out there. And the ones who spoke, well, you know, one young man said, I wish you could start school time tomorrow because I'm tired of sleeping in Trick, along with my classmates' first period. Yeah. And then another young man talked about lunch was no good. But not too many things, you know, as to why. I thought we were here for more young people. So I was just so surprised at this, and I know change is difficult. So, you know, again, appreciate all the work you put into this and looking forward to the notebook. Thank you so much.
Dr. Wyatt.
Thank you, Madam President, and also thank you again for the presentation and for all the hard work you put into this. It's been quite a bit of time that you have dedicated to this project, and just some clarification questions for me. Was this topic brought to the attention of our parent groups, DAC, DLAC, ELAC, and et cetera, as a discussion item? Because I know I've met with some parent groups and they've voiced some opinions about this, but I want to know if those groups were addressed as well.
Those parent groups got information. We sent it out to everyone. In terms of in meetings, I can specifically say at one of our DAC meetings, it was something that was discussed. I don't know if it was on the agenda for any of the other meetings, but it was something that was definitely discussed.
Okay, and then the surveys, were they also distributed in Spanish?
Yes.
They were?
Yeah, it was bilingual.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, very good. That's all I wanted to know.
Dr. Flores?
Yes, thank you for all your work. This is a tremendous amount of work, and it would be a tremendous cultural shift. And I also share your concern with the data and how it was collected. Because when you have neutral, you don't know if they're for or against. So I believe in the forced, decision. Because it's real important to know where you stand and for or not. And then, Mr. Tillman, I really like your suggestion because there are people, when we give choices, then, parents and students and teachers are, because you have early birds, because when Dr. Sharba was talking, I wrote to Dr. Hill, I'm an adolescent. Because I don't go to sleep till around 11 or midnight, and I am forced to get up earlier, but I choose to do that, and I can't go to sleep. And so, whether you're a teenager or not, some we have early birds and we have late birds, and so it would be good to have a choice and also a pilot to see, all the ramifications, working with our union, working with the parents, working with our kids, to see, how it works. And, in terms of schedules, you would have schedules where they could choose. That would be really unique. And it would prepare our kids, too, for college, where they would have to choose their schedule, like we have done, when we went to college. And I was thinking about what you said, Danny. Well, sometimes I had to take an 8 o'clock class because that was the only time that it was offered, and there was room for me to get in there, even though I would have preferred later, but I needed the units. So I think that would be a really viable solution instead of saying all or nothing, because that's never a good thing, all or nothing. And imposing our will. And plus the cost. The cost is a major, if cost was not a major issue, I think we could start, late. But then you think about parents taking kids to school, dropping them off. I mean, a parent's schedule for work. So it's very complex. It just, so anyway, those are my comments. But thank you so much for all your work. Yeah.
If I may,
Yes.
in regards to the cost, we fully recognize that whatever plan of action is taken will come with some obstacles to overcome, some costs, but we feel that it's key to compare those costs with the costs of the status quo. That is the start time that we currently have now. It's important to not underestimate the fact that if we discontinue with the status quo, or by allowing the status quo to continue, we are incurring costs upon our students in terms of sleep deprivation and their performance in school. So we understand that there will be costs, but we think that the financial cost of implementing this is worth it because it's going to be abating the cost that we are currently experiencing for our students and their educational performance. If that makes sense.
Dr. Shelby?
Well, a number of things I might add, but I think one thing to say about costs, I mean, I appreciate the desire to give people choices as several of the board members suggested, but of course that's going to have a cost. How is it that you're going to transport students at various times and so forth without uniform transportation times for the various high schools? That's not going to be cost-free, okay? I think one of the mistakes that was made in this process, though I think by and large the process that the working group went through was absolutely sterling and a model of community engagement, was to put forth for consideration the flipping proposal, the switching proposal. Okay? And I understand why that has some appeal because, again, it would have very modest, if any, financial costs. But I think we perhaps need to contest the mentality that says if we want to improve things for our students, that we should always hope that they won't cost anything. When I look at your agenda each meeting, there are a couple of items on your various agenda, a couple of agenda items that say things like there is no cost to the district, but that's, 1 out of 50, okay? I think that option distorted the dialogue from the outset and invited people to consider an option that I think in retrospect is just simply not very attractive. Okay, so again, as Nikki was saying, I think that whatever procedures or processes we go forward with from this point on should perhaps operate on the presumption that our schedule modification will be not a flip of elementary and secondary, but pushing back secondary. That should essentially be scuttled and dropped from the discussion permanently. Right? It's simply not an attractive option, and I say that for someone as an advocate of modifying secondary times. Last thing. And this is to echo my very articulate daughter. When you say that you're not willing, or perhaps you're not willing to act in terms of pushing back secondary start times, it seems to me that you're saying that you find the present situation satisfactory. I do not. I do not find the present situation with adolescent sleep and the detriments that it causes to our students acceptable. So to those who are opposed to this, what I would say to you is, well, I think we have the equivalent of a public health crisis. And if you're not willing to do anything about it, or if you're not willing to push back start times, what are you willing to do? And if the answer is nothing, I can only express, grave disappointment at that. If you speak to public health experts, right, the 4 non-environmental factors that contribute to our health are diet, exercise, drug and alcohol use, and sleep. If I came to you and I said there's rampant drug abuse in our district, if our students are sedentary, if they're malnourished, what would you say? I think you'd take action. If you don't take action on sleep, I think you're in that boat. So.
Thank you. Dr. Flores, and then I believe we have one public comment on this.
Yes. On Mondays, they have late start at high school. So I wonder, the kids get up later, and what are the transportation, Dr. Marsden, what are the transportation arrangements? Because we do accommodate late start. So I wonder, how we do that.
We still get to use the buses twice. It's just it's kind of reverse engineered to be able to use the buses twice. But what you will find in your notebook.
I don't understand that.
So
when you say use the buses twice.
Is Marie here? Because I'd rather leave it. Oh, she's sick. Oh, that's right.
I rode the bus.
So rather than it's reversed. So rather than pick up secondary students first and elementary students second, they reverse that. So we still get to use the buses twice. So there's no cost implication.
So why couldn't we do that every day?
In terms of then you'd have to switch. See, then you'd have to switch. That would entail a switch.
So the elementary kids start earlier on Mondays?
Because the secondary students don't start till 9:40. So you can afford to pick up the elementary students first and then pick up the secondary students second, because remember they're
so the kids do start the elementary kids do start at the same time
on Mondays.
On Mondays.
But they get out early.
So if we have late start pattern already, why couldn't we do that?
We actually, Dr.
Every
Flores,
day.
you'll find in your notebook, we actually looked at the data in our own district to see what impact we have on Mondays. Now there's you have to look at Monday, Friday patterned absences overall, but what we found is that it does have we have better punctuality on Mondays than we do other days of the week, but our attendance is actually lower on Mondays for our secondary students. So now whether that's just a Monday thing or whether it's a byproduct of how we've structured the day, none of which has anything to do with the medical research, by the way. I know I'm hearing their thoughts out there, so I'm going to qualify that. But we did do that research, and actually we posted it on our website so that parents could have that kind of mini experiment that we've done in our district to see if it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But I'm just raising that issue.
Absolutely.
Because if we do it already, what would be the accommodations for sports, for after school, for all those other aspects that were on there? And forcing the question, would you prefer to have late start, or right?
Well, ultimately, we wanted to respond to the charge that was given to us, which was, do we need to move back secondary? And I think in that equation, unfortunately, the elementary aspect got into it.
Right.
But we want to address the issue that the board asked us to research, which was strictly secondary late start times. And so that is the information in terms
That's
of the data
that's
is
the
what we're
charge.
presenting
So
to-
I think we
Correct.
should have another survey.
Well, which is why I suggested the force rank, because then it is clear that we're talking about secondary start times, which you asked us to look at.
Dr. Marsden,
Yes.
we need to bring it.
We have one public comment relative to this item, and the board would like to welcome Ms. Erica Delgado Ramos. Welcome, good evening. Bienvenidos.
Buenas tardes, mesa directiva. Mi nombre es Erika Delgado de Ramos y
Good
pues
evening. My name is Erica Delgado de Ramos.
quiero compartir con ustedes pues una experiencia que tengo desde el 2007
I want to share with you an experience that I have gone through since 2007
hasta este año
until now.
y los cambios hasta lo que yo he experimentado
In my experience, the changes
han sido buenos.
have been good.
Uno de ellos fue el cambio de track, que eran de A, B, C y D,
One of them was when the tracks changed from A, B, C, D,
y lo colocaron a un solo track.
and it was turned into only one track.
Ayudó a unir a las familias.
It helped unite families.
Y el siguiente cambio que hubo fue
And the,
el llegar los lunes tarde.
and the second change that happened was the late start on Mondays.
Soy positiva
I am positive,
y quiero que ambos lados
and I want both sides
de las familias,
of families,
estudiantes,
students,
empleados,
employees,
estemos contentos.
we're all happy.
Y en mi opinión,
And in my opinion,
una alternativa
an alternative to this
sería preguntarle a las familias
would be ask the families
y a los estudiantes
and the students
en una nueva encuesta
in a new survey
si están interesados
if they are interested in
mantener una clase
maintaining a class
de periodo cero.
of 0 period.
Yo represento esa familia
I represent that family
con una rutina
that has an established routine,
que sabemos
and we know
que si para mi familia cambia,
so that if it changes for my family,
va a afectarle de alguna manera
it's also going to affect in one way or another
a mis estudiantes, a mis hijos
to my children
académicamente.
in an academic way.
Si a mí me dan la opción
If they give me the option
de mantener mi rutina
to maintain my routine
para que mis hijos vengan a la escuela
so that my children can come to school
todos los días,
every single day,
va a ser mi decisión
it's going to be my decision
si cambio
if
a traer a mis hijos
I change
a un horario tarde.
to bring my children to a late start.
Agradezco al departamento de Mr. Buckermer
I appreciate Mr. Volkemer's department
por traernos
for bringing
esta iniciativa
this initiative
que al final sé que puede ser
that in the end, I know that it could be
favorable
very favorable
para algunas familias,
for some families.
pero queremos ayudar a todas las
But we want
familias.
to help all families.
So, si nos dan la oportunidad de elegir,
So if you give us the opportunity to choose,
es cuando podemos realizar la transparencia.
is when we could realize that there's transparency.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Delgado. And I want to thank the panel who has worked hard on this work. I want to thank Dr. Volkemer for your leadership. This is not an easy topic. Ms. Detman for your leadership as well. Ms. Manzano, Ms. Chapin, Ms. Cholby, and Dr. Cholby, thank you so much for your work. I hope that you'll continue with us in this conversation. I know that you've asked us to consider the idea of continuing the conversation and exploration. You've given clear information around the idea of additional survey strategies to educate and inform and exploring the possibilities of some pilot or magnet type possibilities. And so we look forward to further thoughts you have for this board at a later date. So thank you for your time.
And I think Mr. Tillman had a final comment.
Yes, you know, I mean, the surveys are great and getting information from everybody is great. In the end, the board gets elected to make these decisions. You can do 1,000 surveys at some point, this board is going to have to take the action if you're going to make the change to say we're going to do it. Doing a whole bunch of surveys is not going to change. I think the surveys we had tonight are great. And I hope we don't overlook the fact that on the staff survey, more said they don't want to change than do. That's a big deal because the change is going to have to be negotiated. That's the reality. And my point is, you could allow parents who know that they have students, because we're not all the same, that would benefit greatly from a late start to have that option. The board could decide to estimate the cost and pay for the cost. And then that would also allow the staff to decide which ones are willing to work later and have a later class. And hopefully it will coincide with the number of students that choose a later start. And it'll be a win-win. But you're not gonna, you can't say that there's something wrong with the survey, and that's the reason why staff, 45% of the staff said they don't want to make the change. You can do 10 more surveys, and you're still gonna, it's obvious you're gonna have a substantial amount of staff that are saying they do not want to make the change. So I think the way to do it is, it's a win-win. The numbers in the survey from the staff coincide with the numbers with the students. So you might actually have a perfect match in terms of which ones want to start late and which ones don't.
So what we'll do, what it looks like we need to do is we need to bring this back so that we can discuss it fully, which direction we want to take, because we certainly thank, the input, from the parents, from the community, because when we don't do that, then we end up, starting all over again. And I think this is a great start, and I think it's a great input that they gave us, and this is kind of where we were at the beginning. And even what you said, Dr. Flores, that was my first initial thought. We're already doing it. Let's look at the data on a Monday and kind of go from there, because we were kind of doing it already. But now we have a lot of input as to what we need to do, because there's a couple of nuggets that were added too that we really need to consider, and especially the cost at what we're doing. So we want to get to our public comments, but
just one quick.
Go ahead.
And Dr. Hill, there was AM PMs at San Andreas when you were there, right?
I asked for it, but I didn't get it.
Oh,
it came
but
after I left.
Yeah, I see. But so it's not without precedent. I mean, they have, we've got at least some test cases, and obviously figured out transportation and teacher schedules, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's in a smaller thing. Does Sierra have that thing too? That AM PM session too?
So those are a couple of things we need to look
You're doing it all
at.
at your two continuation high schools.
So we can add that to the data, and we can look at the other schools that are doing it, as well as compare it to our late starts. Now we'll move to 7.0, which is public comments. We thank you for bearing with us on tonight. The Board of Education is prepared to receive comments from members of the public on any matter within the subject matter jurisdiction. When recognized, please step to the podium, give your name, and limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. The time limit for public comment to comment by 6 or more individuals on any one topic is 30 minutes. Please be aware of your time. The timer is on the stage. Dr. Marsden?
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice President. We do have a few public comments this evening, so the board first welcomes Mr. Steve Pontel.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marsden, members of the board. My name is Steve Pontel. I'm with National Community Renaissance. For some reason, I don't know, is this picking me up all right?
It is picking you up.
Okay.
You're welcome to take it out and hold it closer if you'd like. That's also fine.
I believe most of you are aware that National Community Renaissance is doing the redevelopment of the area formerly known as Waterman Gardens in the city of San Bernardino, now known as Arrowhead Grove. We wanted to take this opportunity to inform you of some recent developments and to thank the school district for being a partner in this project from the very beginning of the time we launched it. First, to set some context, we're about 4.5, almost 5 years into the redevelopment of the southeast corner of Baseline and Waterman. 1943 era public housing project, originally built as military housing and then transitioned into public housing. To give a little bit of context, the county of San Bernardino a year ago was designated as the least healthy major urban county in the nation. And the intersection of Baseline and Waterman was designated as the least healthy intersection in the county. So we're redeveloping the least healthy intersection in the nation as determined by public health officials. The first two phases of the project, it generated about $50 million of new investment into a neighborhood where there was no new investment occurring, and has generated approximately 130 some units of new housing within that neighborhood. The next phase of the project, which we just won a significant grant, you may have read about it, the first cap and trade grant into the county of San Bernardino for 184 units into the next phase, a $20 million grant. That particular source of funding did not even exist when we started this project. One of the challenges with redeveloping a project, which is an 8 to 10 year redevelopment timeline, is, as you know, public sources come and go. Because when this project was first started by the Housing Authority of the County of San Bernardino, primary source of funding identified was redevelopment, which was eliminated prior to the project getting off the ground. So we're very excited with the progress. This next phase of 184 units will generate over 300 new children into the schools within the neighborhood. We've been working very closely with the schools in the neighborhood and have appreciated the partnership and the development of after-school programs and other curriculum enhancements so that the kids living within the properties can have all the advantages to be successful within the school district. The school district has also been an active partner in the pursuit of other designations such as promise zones within this, and it's together that we are going to be able to continue to move forward. One area of appreciation that I want to express to the school district is since we started this project, we've had 3 city managers, 2 mayors, 2 city attorneys, 2 county CEOs, 2 housing authority directors, and a partridge somewhere. But the school district has been the most stable entity and partner that we've had since we've started this project. So my appreciation to you for that stability. We also received a $1.2 million grant from Dignity Health. And one of the primary issues that we've been focusing a lot on, as I said, the least healthy intersection, is the connection between health and housing is dramatic and well documented, and Dignity Health stepping up with a $1.2 million investment in this next phase is very notable. Finally, with regard to investments that will be made in this next phase, significant improvements along Olive. And so the relationship between the property and the school district, the schools will be significantly enhanced. Significant funding for safe routes to schools that will be continued to be improved and developed throughout the project and throughout the neighborhood. And then finally, within this next phase, there are going to be 36 units of market rate housing. And so one of the things that we'll be talking to is entities, businesses, organizations within the region, because one of the biggest challenges we have in the city of San Bernardino is no new market rate rental housing has been built in the city of San Bernardino other than senior housing and student housing for probably the last 30 years. And so any of you that have had the opportunity to tour Valencia Vista or Olive Meadow, I think you would find any of us would be comfortable living there. And we believe the market rate units added into the next phase will be something that will be of interest to all entities within the city of San Bernardino. So I just wanted to come, bring you up to speed, express our appreciation, and be available to answer any questions if you should have them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pontel. Appreciate your comments tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to see this project continue forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Board, before I go into further public comments, I did want to mention to our guests here from Talion and to our board, we received a notice from Mr. Timothy Smith, the Executive Director of Talion. I'll read it as follows. He has respectfully requested to withdraw his charter petition, their charter petition from consideration tonight. And so we wanted to accept that, and I believe he wanted to make just a brief comment. We'd invite you to do that now.
Thank you, Dr. Marston and the esteemed board members. Yes, that is correct. We are respectfully withdrawing our petition for consideration this evening. We appreciate this opportunity. We look forward to working diligently with the staff in the future to be submitting a petition that would be warranting of approval and recommendation to the board in the near future. So thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll continue our regular public comments. Board would like to welcome Catherine Valdez. I believe you have, yes, so please come. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Kathleen.
Feel free to remove that and hold it right next to you, or if you'd like. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Valdez. I am a parent. I have two children who are attending San Bernardino School District right now, and one who will be attending next year. I'm coming before you today to ask, to propose a relationship between the school district and the San Bernardino County and City Libraries. Prior to starting my family, I worked for the school district as an instructional aide and as a youth ambassador with City of Readers. I worked with Dr. White and Ms. Bakar. And so reading has always been really important. And part of this, it started like a journey. I wanted to encourage my kids to read more. And so I looked out in the community and tried to find what's out there to encourage our kids. And I found that the city library has summer reading programs as well as the county library. They have had a summer reading program all summer. The city library has a used book sale every 3 months. And kids' books are 25 cents, you know? And so that's just, it's awesome for parents like myself who are on a budget and, hey, you can go get 4 books. Get as many books as you want and the kids are happy. You know, I know the school has the Scholastic book sales and, you know, the kids are encouraged to buy books through there. But, you know, those books can be kind of costly. And if we can teach our kids, you know what, hey, we buy a used book and then we'll donate it back and someone else gets to use it. We're encouraging them to be, I guess, aware that things cost money, you know, and at the same time we're encouraging them to read and to be excited about reading. And you're encouraging parents to be actively involved in that. There's so many programs that the city and the county libraries offer. And I think that if the board were to start a partnership with the city and county libraries to do the summer reading programs, you know, parents can even be involved. I was a part of it too. You know, we get free stuff for reading and kids love it. They get little incentives and they even have an app where you can download digital, audio, and ebooks for free. I mean, you can check them out and recheck them out. That's an awesome resource that our students are not being told about. None of the kids at my children's classrooms, teachers didn't even know about it. And if we were to tell the teachers about it, put it on the website, hey, this is available for parents. You can click on it and it sends you a direct link to the county website or to the city library where they can see all the stuff that they offer. I mean, that would just be so awesome. And so that's why I decided to come before you guys today to just ask that you guys start this partnership, because I've talked to people and they're really surprised that there's so many stuff out there that they don't know about. And, you know, if you guys were to start that, that would be encouraging our children to read and our families to do it together, to be, you know, have reading night where, you know, I mean, we do the 66ers, the bookmark. My kids do it, you know, they check off so many boxes and then they get free tickets. But why not encourage them to be part of the community? Go to your library, read a book. Talk about something like this, you know, where the kids get a folder and they can go and go read, and they go to the library and experience checking a book out. I mean, it's one of the things that's awesome about being a kid. And the library in Highland, just down the street, it's a beautiful library. They have it fixed up with kids stuff. They have a kids section. The one in Fettleham, really nice. And so that's why I came before you today.
Well, thank you, Ms. Valdez, and you've helped me to personally question the quality of our relationship with the city and county library. I know we do have some relationship, and we'll certainly look into that. And thank you so much for your passion. This is how we get work done around here. So thanks so much.
It's a great idea.
Board now welcomes Miss Amanda Fitzpatrick. You have 2 topics to speak, and you have 5 minutes within to speak on those 2 topics. So welcome and good evening.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity. I am the mother of 3 kids, and one of them is in the special ed program. So my concern is that my child started in the special ed program from day 1 since he was 3. And I was totally trusting the system because we have special ed kids and we don't expect them, so then we don't know what to do. And so we trust the system. And so fast forward, my point was always to get my child to merge into the normal program. And so 2.5 years ago, I learned that my child was on track for a high school certificate, and I was shocked. I had no knowledge of that program even existing. So all the IEPs that I attended, yes, I was told it's in the IEP, it's written somewhere that my child was on track for a high school completion certificate, but I had no idea. And so I started researching, and what I learned is that, basically there's two programs. The children who are in the normal academics, they go to school and they learn academics, and they get ready for high school and college and a professional career. The kids that are in the special ed program with the mild to severe are automatically on track for a completion certificate, where they get mostly trained into how to survive out there in the world, social skills, that's primarily. Well, I did not send my child to school to get social skills. I'm sending my child to get academic skills because I want him to succeed and I want him to have all the options. And now my son is going into 7th grade, finally reading at a first grade level. I insisted to have him reevaluated so that he could be transferred into a mild to moderate program where he would now be exposed to academics. And I was told that that was up to me, that was a high risk, because what if my child failed? Well, if I don't expose them, what if my child succeeds? I have to believe that the most I expose, he has the more opportunity. But when a child gets put on track with no option, you're not giving the child the option. And the thing is, the child doesn't know their limitations. But when we put them in a box, they won't know their options either. So I took the challenge and I took the risk, and I got my child transferred to the mild to moderate. And in that year, the teacher that he was with acknowledged that it was like night and day. And now my son is writing instead of scribbling. Now my son is reading at first grade level instead of no level. And now, whether he graduates from high school or not, he's on track of getting an education. And so what I saw is that there's two programs, but we got to close the gap. Those kids need to be evaluated and be more exposed and not put in a box like this child is just going to get a certificate. Because I then learned of other parents, and I made other parents aware, because I was like, you got to give your child the most options. So I'm coming to you to bring my personal concern and my personal challenge to that. I don't know how many other parents don't know that their child is not on track. And I don't know that you're aware that this is happening.
Well, I thank you for bringing it to our attention. And your child does attend a school within our school district.
Yes,
is that correct?
Yes, he does.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. And you're highlighting tonight you're the best advocate for your child. Our parents are, so thank you. Thank you for bringing this to our attention, and we'll certainly dig deeper with you, even for your child, to make sure they're as successful as possible.
I appreciate that. My concern is that as parents, it's already difficult enough to find out you have a child with a particular disability, which we really don't know how much of a disability it really is.
Sure.
So we really rely on the system a lot.
Of course.
And perhaps we shouldn't. We need to take on more responsibility on it. However, it's just automatically what happens. And I have a feeling a lot of parents are in the same boat.
Well, thank you.
And so, okay.
Before you leave,
yes.
Dr. Flores has a clarifying question for you.
Yes. I would like to know what prompted you to change your child from where he was to mild and moderate. What prompted you?
Well, from day one, I was asking the teachers as he was progressing, what can we do so that he can transition into the normal, what I call the normal education, so that he could be more exposed to the normal environment. And so as the answer was, well, he's too disturbing. We can't have him be in a class where if he's not paying attention, the other kids are not going to learn. So I understood that. So then he got transferred to another school, and I continue with the same task. What can I do so that my child can get the most? And then at that time, the teacher explained to me, well, you don't understand that what we're teaching your son here, it's not going to be taught at the mild to moderate. And I thought, what are you talking about? I don't understand. What do you mean they're not going to teach the same things? So then I took some literature home, and when I took the time to read it, I got that they were two different programs that I had no idea were two different programs. So that's what led me. My goal to have my son have the most got me to continually question. And as the teacher explained that in her class, he was going to be taught a particular pattern, which is social skills. And I get that. Some kids need that specific. And so that's how does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
And I just want to comment to you that, I'm a professor of teaching and learning of literacy.
Okay.
And you're right, spot on. Kids will rise to the potential if it's organized, if they are taught, within their developmental, and also we reach, keep reaching for the potential. You saw that potential in your child.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's so clear. And like Dr. Marston said, we really have to evaluate, how our special ed kids are being assessed and evaluated. And we really gonna have to dig deep, because we know, or I know from our research, that if we organize it, they will rise to it. And your intuition was right on. So I'm happy to hear that he's progressing, and I'm sure he'll progress even much more quickly now that he can write and beginning to read. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I know, Ms. Fitzpatrick, you wanted to complete your comments. You had about a minute left. You wanted to speak to the board about teaching our children about finances.
Yes. And so, yes, my son, just to make a brief example, my son comes home and very excited about having career day. And in the career day, they give a certain amount of money, and then it gets allocated to all the different expenses. And I thought, well, that's great. But where in that chart is there any question about saving? Where is that chart? Are you being taught about investment? Where in that chart are you being taught about a retirement plan? And so when I went to school, I actually learned about balancing my checkbook and all of that, because I took the elective of office occupation because my major was into business. But I realized if I hadn't taken that class, I would not have learned about balancing my checkbook or any of that, because the curriculum did not require that course. That was on a selective. And so for me, a huge missing is that our kids go through the whole entire high school education, and they're not taught anything about how does money work, and how do they can prepare, how do they can start, and for parents, to how to start saving so the kids don't have to have this loan all the time. You go to college, you need money, but we're never taught to save. We were taught to go work for somebody, but we're not taught about generate your own business, about really taking on your life. And so then,
yeah, Ms. Fitzpatrick, thank you so much.
Did I run out of time?
Yeah, thank you so much for your comments. I do want you to know we do have financial literacy courses for our students. It's not pervasive through the whole system yet. We're building toward that. So thank you for your comments tonight. They are heard and understood. Thank you.
thank you.
And Dr.
Appreciate
Marsden, we
it.
definitely want this information captured for under Dr. Menard's purview of what they're doing in their new work.
Most certainly.
Thank you.
And next
Thank you
for
so
public
much.
comments and last is Dr. April Clay. Welcome, Dr. Clay.
Did you guys receive this already? No.
It's coming.
So I'll wait till you get it.
They gave us a book, Dr. Volkemer.
Can we start the time when? Can we start the time when they have the book? Okay. All right. Good evening, Dr. Marsden, beautiful board members, and wonderful cabinet. Excited to stand here and grace your presence at a godly hour. I really would like to just share with you guys a little feedback of the year and how we progressed. And I won't belabor it because we did come before you in April and share with you specifics about what the illnesses look like. So we're not going to go over that again. And I just want to also kind of preface this with, we always attempt to pursue this dialogue with you regarding the work that we're doing at North Park with a high degree of intentional discretion. So because we respect and care about the individual lives that we're impacting, hopefully positively, we believe positively and have heard reports that it's all positive, but the lives that we're impacting, we're wanting to do that with a high degree of discretion. So you won't see us with a lot of pomp and circumstance. We won't have them all come out and parade. Though we've entertained the idea once or twice, we've just decided that it's best to keep this pretty discreet. So that being said, if you take a look at page number 2, it's just an overview of the services that we provide to give you a deeper look of who we are. And I know a lot of times it's usually just me or maybe 2 or 3 other people that stand before you, but of course I represent a larger body. And so this will hopefully give you a deeper look at who we are on the campus of North Park and the services we provided. Tonight you're going to look at item number 9.19 and hopefully take action on that in an affirmative way. And that item is about our general ed services. We also provided special ed services, so we could talk about that at a later time. But tonight we're going to focus specifically on the general ed services that we provided at the site. And so on page 3, you'll see that the participants in the services we provided for the 2017-18 school year were students and parents. And of course, we reached all subgroups, that's ethnic, socioeconomic, any kid that was on the campus that could participate in the services at whatever level based on the counselor and the administrator's discretion was able to participate. So when it came to the parenting work that we did, we offered parenting classes. We offer a wraparound approach wherever we are. If you see us, you're going to see a wrap approach because we know that it's not just the child that we want to touch. We want to affect the work they're doing in the classroom. We want to affect the interaction they're having at home because none of this rests in isolation. If a kid is dealing with, let's say, for example, anxiety, that's not just anxiety in the classroom, it's anxiety at home, and likely there are triggers that they're getting at school and at home. So we want to help educate those adults that are working with them. So I'll just kind of go through it rather quickly. The services we provided to the students have multiple parts. Specifically here, we're focusing on the campus-wide synergy activity that we did. Of course, it was augmented. It wasn't the traditional anti-bullying campaign. This was a little bit more specialized to address the kids who are dealing with content that they don't normally deal with. Kids drawing pictures of guns, kids making gestures and comments that they would not normally make at a high rate. And we even saw a little wave of increased physical violence and activity during different periods of the school year. So November specifically, the kids were highly triggered and we saw a lot of behavior popping up. And so that was the time that we decided when we do our synergy activity, we're going to target what we see in the different grade levels. So working with the teachers and the administrator, we created our synergy activity to help aim and target some of the behaviors that we saw as a result of triggers like the helicopters, triggers like the sirens going by, things that were happening on campus previous years, but because now as a result of them all experiencing a shared phenomena, they are dealing with it and it came out in different ways. So we wanted them to be educated and to be well informed about what they're dealing with. How do I ask for help when I need help? What are my cues that something's going on inside me? And what are better ways to get help outside of maybe using some keywords and phrases? So we worked with individual students and we provided support on a weekly basis to those kids as well as collateral support. On the right-hand side, you'll see collateral referring to working with the teacher, the parent, and the admin. This gives you some totals. One total that's not included here is an average of 2 days we worked with crisis intervention. So every single day we had a varying number, maybe 1 today, maybe 0 today, and then some days it would be 3 or 4, but kids would be triggered and they would trigger each other. And so we had unplanned weekly consultations or sessions with kids and families. Skipping over to page number 4, you get a glance at what's articulated in the actual agreement with the district. And so the services that we provided included 5 clinicians that came to the campus at various times. And so we rotated it so that you wouldn't only have 2 people every single day, you would have a variety of folks. So we had a age variance, people who had 5 years to 35 years of experience. So I think some of our kids responded and parents responded differently based on who the clinician was. And so we were able to kind of work with personalities to align the parents with the kids that will work, align the clinicians with the kids that needed it the most. And then the last page, you'll see the actual data, the findings when we surveyed the staff and the parents. And so what you see here is our kids were demonstrating positive change. You'll
Time.
see, okay, you'll see the specifics highlighted on the last page there, the 7th page, and you'll get quotes that give you exactly what the parents and the staff were saying, the kids, how they performed and increased their behavior, which we believe actually affected their academics. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clay, and thank you for your work. We do have one more comment. One moment. Board welcomes Mr. Anthony Howard. Good evening, sir. Doing well, sir. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to meet the board.
You may have to grab that microphone and put it right up to your mouth. I apologize. It doesn't pick up very well. Just pull it right out. There you go. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm glad I made it today. I'm Anthony Howard. I'm also an employee of the school district. I'm currently a custodian, and I'm here today to speak about the progress of African American children, especially at an elementary school level. I was hired by a wonderful principal, man, a passionate principal named Ms. Hurtado, who hired me, brought me in, and really asked me to volunteer my personal time to get APAC established. And for you guys who don't know what APAC is, it stands for African American Parent Advisory Council. Okay, so my experience since I came to the district has been difficult, but it's not about me, it's about the children. Once I was able to sit as a custodian at the PBIS roundtable at Cole Elementary, at the APAC table at Cole Elementary, also at the school site council at Cole Elementary, the leader who brought me in asked me to do this. And I understood the need and why she asked. Ms. Hurtado was a good principal, and she didn't have support at Cole. And she brought me in specifically to invite African American parents, because the statistics, once she opened up the window and I was exposed to it, it wasn't good for our population. So that just gave me a bit more passion, a bit more fire to kind of hustle and communicate with parents. And I was successful. And the more I was successful, the more false complaints I received from my fellow coworkers. I tried to deal with that on all levels, but I was told to shh. So I'm here now to, just say, APAC is important, specifically because when you take a child to elementary school at all levels, that's the beginning of their educational experience. That's the birth of that relationship between mom, dad, parent, counselor, principal, custodian, teacher, cafeteria worker, and whoever. Like, we have this mission or this big old banner that says hope, growth mindset over fixed mindset. But from my point of view as an employee, I see APAC being prevented from our communities by being posted as an acronym. I mean, I've been to school, and when I first came to the district, I saw that and didn't know what it was. And I think parents deserve a right to have clear information presented to them. That's a direct invitation into the district, like, come on, let's sit down and talk. And we all know it's a need for the African American community in the Dino to get some love and some inspired something. So I think the first step is to put it up there loud and big. African and American Parent Advisory Council. To let parents know that they have a voice. Other populations have a bigger voice that's supported by government. And all I'm asking is for the district to support APAC. and push it, make it intimate. For example, teach these parents, these young parents who's stuck on popular culture, give a popular culture class and to teach them how it affects their brain, their children's brain, because it's about the brain. Isn't the district about the brain growth instead of being fixed? We've been fixed for a long time. I know our community has. It's a direct attack. But this educational institution is right at the front line. And I'm here to promote a different passion and some energy, because we pull out this that sheet that's a guideline for all of our meetings. You know what I'm saying? We need to follow that. And we need all employees within the district that represent other populations to let us do what we need to do, because we love our children. Hardy Brown was just here. It was flooded with young parents with young children in all grade school, caring about their children's growth. Now we have a big enemy right here. You know, at least let's teach parents, you know, the challenges by welcoming them in, talking to them. Counselors, you know, they got a huge, huge challenge. But as a custodian, just hey, come on in. Yeah, I'm volunteering, that helps. We need more volunteers. I don't see, you know, we need more volunteers on the elementary school level. APAC should be thriving. APAC is doing a lot of good things, high school. But when you go on the district website and look at the history, over the years, when an African-American child first steps into the district, you see potential is way up here. And then as he go on higher and higher, the potential goes down. And APAC is there waiting like, okay, come on. And that's good. But y'all should be right there we should be right there at the beginning. And APAC is that's our biggest tool right now.
Time.
So, thank you.
And Mr. Howard, before you go, I want to just thank you and commend you for your leadership, your passion, your wisdom, and it's a great ask that you have of us. That's why we're here. You have my full support, and so we will. Actually, I'd love to circle back with you and dig more into what you have.
Yeah,
5 minutes won't do it justice.
Please do, but when I came to the district, I came from the county preschool services department.
Great.
And we got wonderful employees at Cole, good
no
teachers.
Doubt. Yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we got some bad apples too that has
Yeah.
a history.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so thank you.
No, thank you, and we'll be reaching out to you. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Flores.
Yes.
Mr. Howard.
Hi. I just want to thank you so much for your passion, and what you bring is love. That we have to love our kids from the beginning, and also love our parents, and not just make it a meeting. And I love what you said. Just not make it an acronym, but really say it. I mean, and also.
Not to disrupt, ma'am, but
yeah.
when I first arrived at Cole, we didn't have no African American rec aides. No we have a few African American teachers, but the children, there was a complete disconnect.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? I was there.
Right.
They even asked me to volunteer to mentor, but it's a process. It's a way to do things, a right way, not a hidden way. Put it out there.
I'm
Show
in
the
total
parents.
agreement with you.
Okay.
And I'm a mother. I'm a teacher, a professor, and that's what we have to do. We have to connect with our kids
I'm a
and
father.
all our kids. Yeah.
I have a son within the district that attend Hardy Brown.
Yeah.
And I wanted to put him in Cole with me. I thought that would be a perfect playground for him, but also a perfect introduction.
Right.
Because he's 7.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You're an inspiration.
So, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. We look forward to you working more with the district. All right, we are now going to move in 8.0, reports and comments. 8.1, report by San Bernardino Teachers Association. No report, Madam Vice President. Wow, okay, thank you. All right, 8.2, report by California School Employee Association. Is that a name? All right. 8.3, report by Communication Workers of America.
Good evening, Dr. Marston and board members.
Good evening.
And cabinet. My name is Stephen Gianni. I'm the area vice president for substitute school teachers. We've had a very interesting week going on. Right now, I've had people asking me about Janice. We have not heard anything yet from our legal to tell us anything about Janice. So I'm not actually going to be able to report on it. But you all have a nice evening.
Thank you. Good evening.
You're welcome.
Okay, 8.4, report by San Bernardino School Police Officers Association.
No report. No report.
All right. 8.5, comments by board members, and we can start with Mr. Tillman and we can work our way this way.
No comment.
Don't feel obligated.
No, I don't. I do have a request. Do we, Dr. Marsden, have a listing or a matrix maybe of all of the various programs that we have going, both in-house and procured, outside services for things like, the Read 180, the Apex program, and at what sites that they're at, and this is part of. I know that when Harold pulled together the program evaluation worksheets that we put together and have instituted for our outside organizations to ensure alignment with our strategic plan, alignment with key performance indicators, et cetera, it would be neat to just even know what is it that we're going to program evaluate. What programs do we think we should evaluate? And as I got started to think about it, it was it became, it'd be kind of neat to know, where are some of these programs? I know that we have a host of literally dozens and dozens of programs that are throughout the district in various capacities at various schools. Some have one particular type, some have others. I guess first question is, do we have a matrix that just kind of showcases what everyone has? And I mean, even like career pathways and things, just outline. I'm not sure I could articulate where the local career pathways are and who has what, just to kind of get a sense of, and then, we can look at applying program evaluation tools and all of these kinds of things that we've already begun. But I think just starting with that listing would just be an edification on my part.
Yeah, and I'll have Dr. Volkemer speak to. I can assure you there are not dozens but hundreds of programs, and I can also mention that we spent several days with all of our leaders on a task that Dr. Lindsay Gunn walked us through, similar to our strategic planning efforts on strategic abandonment.
Exactly, this is
looking
where I
at
was going.
programs that we can abandon, looking at practices, policies. Considerations. So we're in the middle of that work right now.
Well, and we should do so, with information, as versus just, we've been doing this for a while. What would be the criteria and all of this kind of stuff? I know we've started that work.
So let me let Dr.
Really
Volkemer speak to
so.
what we have so far, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Dr. Morrison. It's a great question, Mr. Gallo. As you know, we started the program evaluation process on external instructional programs with the intent that as we get to know the process and refine it, we'll be able to expand it to other types of programs within the district. I don't think you'll find a single source, one matrix that has all of our career pathways along with any school that has Read 180 or any school that has some other type of program. It'll be multiple sources, but we have the information and we can certainly bring that forward to the board. It'll take us a little bit of time to dig through and pull it together from multiple sources, but it would be good to have that. So
yeah, just and then you could prioritize where you want to start an evaluation tool to assess how long all of, it just gives you some point of reference. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Dr. Hill.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I just have two comments. One, I want to say congratulations to the summer school graduates. I know your graduation is tomorrow. I wish all of you the best. My heart would be there, but with the heat and with my medication, I will not be there tomorrow, but I do wish you the best. And my last comment, I just want to say to the teachers and administrators, as you get ready to start school next month, especially when the students come. Be prepared to give them the best. I was sitting here, and what I was thinking of, I said our schools are like the Golden Corral, you know, you're the buffet. So you need to have something for every student. They might not eat everything, but they should be full when they leave the school at the end of the day. So just looking forward to a good school year. Thank you.
Dr. Flores?
I too would like to welcome back the teachers and administrators. I know that you're going to have a 2-day or 1-day staff development, and then they're going to go back to their sites to work. So I think that's a good start. And like Dr. Hill says, you know, let's start off with a real, you know, bang and move forward and work together. So I think that's good. I was at Martin Luther King. I have about 4 things to share. At Martin Luther King School last Wednesday for inauguration of a mural, and I'd like to thank Ginger Ontiveros for facilitating that, and Dr. Marsden and Janie for all the help to help the you know, with the paints and everything, and also with the artists. The artists donated it. It's a beautiful mural, and it's with Dr. King on there, and the kids helped paint it. So it was wonderful. It was a wonderful ceremony. And I had a chance to ask the principal, Maria Jauregui, how it went last year. And I think we have to recognize Martin Luther King because their math and English language arts scores went up double digits. This past year, they only suspended 15 kids versus prior 300. That's phenomenal. So I think we have to, you know, I would request, Madam President, if we could, you know, honor them and Dr. Marsden in terms of giving them recognition. So thank you very much. And I'd like to thank Janie, Ms. Christakos and her staff for providing the impact charter school data. It's very telling, and it gives us, you know, information. Also, Dr. Wiseman for providing us the summary of all of the, you know, law firms and their total cost that we have, and also Dr. Mitchell for all the BCs that you've given us regarding, you know, ed services. It's really, really important. Harold for all your work that you've done. Dr. Volkmer, I mean, Dr. Pettis as well. Welcome aboard. You have a big job, and you know, look forward to working with you collaboratively. I also would like a couple of requests, Dr. Marsden. I would like to know, I think we got a community schools grant, so I would like, is that so, Ms. Ontiveros? We just received a community schools grant, so I would like for you know, BC to give us information on that. Oh, it'd be Rachel.
We'll
Dr. Menardis.
we'll look into it.
Right. I heard through the grapevine that we got a big award.
We'll get
grant.
some feedback
Okay.
to you on it.
So if once you find it, could you please let us know what it is? I also would like to invite all the board members and cabinet to the California Latino School Boards Association Unity Conference in October at Del Mar. This year's theme is Organize, Mobilize, Take Action, which I think we do very well. It's : We the People are the Power. And it's very evident from how we work collaboratively in our district. And Dr. Mitchell, I'd like to ask you again if you could submit a proposal for our African American Task Force, because a lot of districts, you know, always cite us, and lots of board members and administrators will be there. And you haven't presented that in a couple of years, so I would really request that we share that with them.
Yeah, happy to.
And lastly, I just want to request again, following up what Mr. Gallo said about pathways. I would like to know what pathways we have and what schools. I know we have the brochure, but I would like to know in detail their budgets and what we support and what CTE money is used, not just the CTE money budgets, and what is it that they need to go forward, because if we're really going to invest in our pathways, we have to support them. And given that we've gotten new monies, additional monies, I like to see where, the need is in terms of that. And that's it. Thank you
Dr.
very
Flores,
much.
just to inform you, we are working on that analysis, and we should have it for
Oh,
the
you
next
are?
board meeting.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
But I think it's really important because we want to move forward with the internships. We want to move forward, in terms of supporting all the different career pathways. So, okay, thank you very much. That's it.
I'm sorry, Dr. White.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Just, I know Dr. Menares is not here, but there was a question that I had, and maybe Dr. Volcom or someone else on Executive Cabinet can answer this question for me. And it stems from public comments from Ms. Fitzpatrick and as well as Mr. Howard coming forward about our different parent advisory groups. And I know we have our special ed task force that's either being developed or is developed, but do we have a special ed parent advisory group of any type or support group? So when they have such questions or concerns that they could come together as a community and clarify these questions and just be there for one another. I work in the special ed field myself, so I understand parent concerns very well. And I think one of the best things we can do is be there for them as obviously the professionals that we should be, as well as parents for each other too. Because I know with my son, I've gone through challenges as well. And it's can be at times very hurtful. And obviously there are children and it means everything to us. So that is just one of my concerns. If we do have such a group, I'd love to know because I'd love to be a part of it as well.
We'll get you that information, Dr. Wyatt. I believe it's called the Community Advisory Group, and it is centered on special education, but we'll get you additional information.
If we do, I think we need to have a group that is named appropriately, because the gentleman made a point, it starts with the name. So if we had Dr. White, maybe you could think of a name that would bring parents together.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great idea. Exactly. Yeah.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you. And then before I turn it over to Dr. Marsden, again, just a couple of notes that I had. I noticed when the young lady came and spoke on the public comments was talking about reading, but I thought, where are we at with the Footsteps to Brilliance, and again, making sure that our parents are aware of that as well, because we did, do a lot of work around that, and it was quite costly, and we want to make sure that it is in fact working. And I know that the county has the vision to read, so what does our partnership look like on that? And then I know later on we're going to also look at the bullying information, and we had talked about just ensuring, which is great, that this information is coming out, but we definitely want to make sure at the launch of our year, that our parents and our community are equipped as to what steps need to be taken when we look at bullying, because it's reported quite often, and sometimes it just seems like it just ends where it ends, and sometimes our staff don't know what to do, our parents don't know what to do. We as board members, try to direct them as well, and we don't know. But the recommendation, I know even Abigail and I just mentioned us knowing whatever that training is going to look like as board members, and the reason why, so that we can direct, parents immediately when they have concerns. I looked also at and thank you all for the BCs, and we know that you guys give us quite a bit all the time, and that they're there, and I hope we're all looking at them as we should. But I was looking at the citation BC, and I noticed that our students are doing a lot of trespassing, and so I don't know if we just need to reiterate and do some education around not being on campus or whatever those things that are occurring that's causing them to be cited for trespassing. Why are they on the campus? Do they know? Sometimes kids may just think they can be there. We don't know, but again, if that could be helpful to them as well. Local celebrations, and Dr. Flores brought up the Martin Luther King, and unfortunately some of us board members, when we do have time, there's times we are on the social media and we see things occurring, and it's quite disturbing sometimes when we see things that are happening locally where, and all of our schedules are complex, and so is mine, and I can't be at everything. I would like to, but I just humanly can't. But certain things that are happening in the community, we should not learn, through the social media. I mean, I probably, all of us would have picked up a paintbrush, not that we're the Picassos of the state, but I mean, those type of things are monumental things that happen once in a lifetime, that we would want to be there and say we were there when it took place, later on. So hopefully we can do a better job at that. And the same thing as we happened on some of the work that's happening over at Norton. Those things are huge. Those things are right here underneath us where we don't have to fly, we don't have to drive a long distance. And just simply because I do get the emails when people ask me to come, and I do my very best to go, but when they're requesting us, that means they really want us there. And those celebrations are important, and they don't all have to be done, all the time at the district, but if we can go to them sometimes in their element, I think that's what they want. They don't want us necessarily. The hoopla is great sometimes, but just being there. But those were two major, and there was some other thing that took place, but anyway, those were two major that came to mind, and it just happened to pop up in one of my feeds, and I thought, I see the assemblywoman there painting, and I see none of us board members there painting our school. Nothing against that work. That's great, because we have a lot of partners we have established in the community, but when we need to be where we need to be, I think it's important for us to represent there. And then lastly, Dr. Perez, I think we've all been kind of working with you on these transfer students. It's just huge, because they've been on pins and needles, and there's some we'll follow up on, but they're on pins and needles because they need to know where their kids are going. And I know there's been a huge transition working with your team, but we definitely, when they're coming to us, they're in a desperate state, and they want to know where their kids are going to be. So a couple in particular we need to follow up with and find out where we're at on those students. Are they going to be where they need to be, or what we need to do? And plus trying to define, I've heard, and even a couple of board members mention, sometimes it has been put out there, school of choice, or if their school is not performing at a certain level, I have this option to go to another school. And so if that's still in play, if those are still within the guidelines of what we're doing, that's one of the reasons why they're coming to us, and we want to make sure that we're saying what we need to say to them properly. And I think that's it. All right. Dr. Marsden?
Thank you, Mrs. Rogers. So yes, this is our last meeting of the summer as board and cabinet together. We have our school year starting. As you know, we have a couple days of staff development at the Ontario Convention Center, July 30 and 31st. You have a handout at your dais that has the detailed information for both of those days. We do have Doug Reeves, who is one of our keynote speakers. And then on the employee gathering on August 1st at California Theater, we have Manny Scott. If you haven't heard his story, The Power of One, he's one of the Freedom Writers. He's got just an incredible story, and looking forward to his encouragement for all of our staff that day. So board, please, if you're able to join, just let us know, and we'd love to have you there. Yes, August 1st is the employee gathering at California Theater. And then just a few comments. It's been a while since I've been here with you in the board meeting. I've been at a few conferences. One was Visible Learning with John Hattie. We had about 90 staff there, and it was a great examination of what system structures and strategies work well as based on research, and the idea of this collective efficacy and the power of building the skill and knowledge of staff always stands up at the top of the work that we can do. Attended a city rebranding effort hosted by our mayor, Kerry Davis, and joined a number of city leaders who interact on a regular basis with the city leadership, and got some great input on how we might better redesign our city's brand and some of the language we use to describe our city. We had students the same day. I went right after that to the Williams Syndrome Fair at Jones, where we were honoring the Jonathan Martinez family, and had some of our students speak there who had a meeting with the mayor. They had some fantastic input on how to help our city just continue to grow into greatness, and so they're going to be getting that input to our mayor, so I was excited to hear that. I attended the CSB Leadership Conference. It's been the direction of our vice president for some time to really look at the work of offering coding to our students in schools. and a number of you have expressed interest in this topic. My own son is a master of code, and so I get the impact of that skill in the future of society. And so I was able to attend the leadership conference and heard from Hadi Partrovi, who is actually the CEO of code.org, and also had an opportunity to hear from Kimberly Bryant, who is the founder and CEO of Black Girls Code, Stephanie Castillo, who's the founder and executive director of Latina Girls Code, and also Ann Mira Ko, the CEO and co-founder of Floodgate. And so very excited about the possibilities for our young people. I'm going to work with our team to take advantage of their work and what they offer to grow our students' skills. And then just got back from the first annual convening on cultural proficiency and heard a great personal story from Dr. Terrence Roberts, who was one of the Arkansas 9 Congressional Gold Medal recipient. And he gave a great deal of comments. I took copious notes. I have a lot of, felt like I was writing down history because it's just great experiences. But he says that, you know, the conversation 50 years ago was brutal and largely compliance driven. And he challenged us with this idea that there's no such thing as progress. And he made everybody sat up and said, what do you mean? No such thing as progress. But he said, though there are examples of people who are learning and growing, he said, just not enough. And we need to rethink this idea of progress. And he gave examples of looking at the existing data we have today in terms of home ownership, specifically for African Americans, is at an all-time low. And so we need to be clear on our messages to young people, our messages to ourselves. He says his message to young people is take executive responsibility for your own learning. I like that, being able to have conversations with our young people and helping them understand their role, their responsibility, how they can help and help themselves. And then also he talked about if what you know hasn't changed you, change what you know. And I thought that was just a great comment. So really enjoyed that opportunity. Tamika Casey was one of our staff members that was invited to that event as well. She's one of our trainers in-house on cultural proficiency, so pleased to attend that. And then earlier this morning, I was able to co-present with a number of leaders from workforce development, economic development, to our San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors, and they have given full support to continue forward the expansion of what they are coining and calling Generation Go, which are these paid internships for our students. We had a number of our Cajon students there who were able to speak through video of the impact of the internship with them. For many of them, this was their first job, their first paycheck, the first time that they've been college students, because all of them now are. And we now have students from San Andreas High School working in some of their paid internships, and a few of them already getting jobs based on those experiences. So great things happening, and we wish everybody the best start to the next and greatest year so far together.
Thank you, Dr. Marsden. Okay, we are now at 9.0, consent calendar. Are there any items to be pulled?
Staff does have one item we want to pull, item 9.13, based on direction from the CDE to postpone until we're able to include integration of information around ESSA from the federal government. So we'll be pulling item 9.13 tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Or I'm sorry, let's vote. It's moved in second. Let's vote.
I already need to pull.
Is that it?
Any other?
There are no other items. Is that it?
Aye. I vote aye.
Thank you.
That's what
Were there other items? No. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carried. Discussion. I'm sorry. No discussion. Motion carried. And now,
No, that's actually.
that's after. Okay. All right. We are moving to 9.0. 10.1 action items. The personnel report dated July 24, 2018. Dr. Wiseman, any discussion?
No, thank you. As presented, Mrs. Rogers.
Be it resolved that the personnel report number 2 dated July 24, 2018 be approved as presented. All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposes? All right, no discussion? Motion carried. 10.2, resolution for exemption to the separation from service requirement pursuant to section 24214.5 or 26812 of the Education Code. Kenneth Bites.
So moved.
All right, it's been moved in second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? All right, motion carried. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves exemption to the separation from service requirement for retired leader Kenneth Bites. Looks, is it printed twice?
That's the same one.
Got it. 10.3?
Table, right?
Yes.
That's pulled.
The item is actually pulled from the agenda.
We'll
By the
move
petitioner.
to 10.4, amendment to Board Policy 5117, interdistrict attendance, students' first reading. As a first reading, we will be voting only to accept item 10.4, 10.5. They will be brought back at a later board meeting as a second reading where we will vote to adopt the policies. Any discussion? Be it resolved that the Board of Education accepts the amendment to Board Policy 5117, interdistrict attendance, students as a first reading. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, it's been motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? All right, motion carried. We are moving to 10.5, new board policy 5131.2, bullying students, first reading. Any discussion?
So moved.
All right, it's been moved in second. All in, you okay? Yeah. All in favor? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion has been carried. All right, moving along, 10.6.
So moved.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? All right, motion carried. 10.7.
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, no discussion? Okay, all right.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Update on top 10, number 1. It says anticipated completion date, remarks, action. We have 316 to 318, and that is for the Create Programs of Excellence. And, you know, I like to revisit this one every once in a while because it's been on there since 2014. So 4 years later, I'm just wondering what is our action and progress towards this?
I agree.
I can address that. We're asking staff to review board policy. The board policies for Rodriguez and Richardson are different. They are different programs, but there are a lot of similarities. We think that merging and making the board policy one policy would be a good move. We also have. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about something totally different. This is the one where
We were asking for
the board asked us to bring options and considerations to the board around Emerton.
Yeah, we can bring you back an updated report at a future time, board. And so what we'll do is provide you a board correspondence, and then we'll discuss with the president, vice president, as appropriate time to bring that back. There are a number of actions going on right now in terms of digging into this and some possibilities. And so we'd want to be able to prepare that to share that with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Marsden. It is our number 1, though. I just want to make note of that.
Okay.
Number 1.
No question that we're aware of it's number 1.
Thank you.
And I just for clarification, only because I know I had a brief conversation with Dr. Hill earlier today, just off the cuff conversation, but I really think if we have programs where there are waiting lists, those are the obvious programs that we should expand.
Sure.
So whether it's Richardson or Rodriguez or even San Andreas and Sierra, if there's waiting lists for those sites, then that should be obvious that how do we create additional capacity for those type of programs? So it should be obvious that, you know, within a year or two, we have an additional continuation school if that's where the demand is. So I hope that's what that item is looking at doing also.
It is.
Okay. And then one additional question, where might I find, I know I brought up, you know, somewhere down the road when we have the funding to look at having gyms for the middle schools. Is that somewhere embedded in one of these follow-ups or one of these thoughts?
And what is
'Cause
gyms?
To have gymnasiums at
gymnasiums.
middle schools. Yeah, it was there, but I don't know where we captured it.
So
Or
we'll be doing a board presentation in August with
Okay.
our facility update.
Okay.
And so we have a long
it's
list
coming.
of items, and so we'll have on there the cost for that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Madam Vice President, is that part of our athletic strategic plan as well? I'm just wondering.
That's what I was wondering where
or
it
is that
fell in.
separate?
I don't know.
Infrastructure is an ongoing part of the athletic strategic plan. So you know that the board has done a lot in that area, new tracks, new stadiums, we're working on new turf football fields this year and next. So we can certainly add this to the list, and it would be more than appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, it did come up. I know I had it before and it was kind of there, and I know you did give a BC on something, but I didn't expect it would just go away as a never a thought ever again. This is something that has come forward.
We'll be sure to capture that detail in the athletic strategic plan, Ms. Rogers, and so that's where you can anticipate it'll be noted. Yeah.
All right. Okay, 10.8, board follow-up. Any? We voted already. Any
So moved.
discussion? All in favor? Any, I'm sorry, discussion? You guys go so fast, you throw me off. Any discussion? All right. None. I hear none. Okay, we're good. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Okay, so it's been a motion and second, correct? All right. Motion carried. We are at 10.9, future agenda items. Any discussion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carried. We're at 11.0, summary of board requests. Dr.
So
Marsden
first of all,
or
board,
Dr. Volkowitz?
you will not be able to sleep tonight unless you get your notebook. And I will get killed in the morning if you don't take your notebook by Sylvia. So I have those for you. We'll make sure you get them, and I'll get them to Mrs. Medina and Dr. Flores. Other than the additional items or ideas that you gave us for late start, which I've captured in the notes on the presentation, and I'll bring those to the work group. These are the items that I have for follow-up. Create a matrix of programs, including both internal and external, including things like career pathways, specialized programs that we do for expansion into the program evaluation model. A BC, an update on the community schools grant. Dr. Mitchell is to consider submitting a proposal on the African American Task Force work to the California Latino School Boards Association. A report is to be made on pathways by school, including budget, district, and CTA funding, or CTE, excuse me, funding. CTA funding would be good too, though. Just teasing Miss Tracy. And any needs that they have. And a BC and an update on our special education parent advisory group, how often it meets, et cetera, et cetera. An update on Footsteps to Brilliance and where we are and what's happening with that effort. Information related to our efforts toward reducing citations in the area of trespassing and what efforts we might bring forth to make a dent in that. Ensure that you get notice of special events so that you know that they're available for you to attend if at all possible. RC and Mrs. Rogers, if you could, you mentioned RCS's families waiting to know what schools they're going to. We can get you general information about guidelines, but if you have specific families, and I know we talked about several specific families earlier today, if you could let us know what those families are, and we can give you a specific follow-up on those. BC on Richardson, and I just put et al. Specialized programs, waiting list type programs. Add middle school gymnasiums to the facilities update that'll occur later this school year, as well as the athletic strategic plan.
And Dr. Volker, I might have been reading while I was listening. Did you mention the parents equipped regarding the information around bullying and what the training looks like as well? That was a request.
I did not. I'm
Okay,
sorry, I
we'll
didn't capture that one. Can you say it one more time, please,
Yeah,
Dr.
so
Mason?
Ms. Rogers had asked about our parents and how our parents equipped and what does the training look like regarding bullying.
Got it. Thank you. I apologize
And
for
did
missing
we
that one.
hear out on the matrix? Did you cover the matrix on
the
career?
one that Mr.
Yes.
Gallo mentioned.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I have that.
Board members, was that everything? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
So moved.